you again for coming to this session. Today we have Jagrati Chauhan, and I practiced pronouncing her name correctly. I hope I'm getting it right.
Absolutely.
She's joining us with a presentation on teaching discussion pragmatics in academic English program. Jagrati currently teaches English for academic purposes at York University English Language Institute. She has her PhD in English and a master's in linguistics and English language teaching. She's also an instructor and senior writer for EduPros. Welcome to this session, and just in a minute, I will pass the presentation rights to you. Okay, I hope everything works for you and you're ready to go.
Thank you, Yuliana. Thank you very much for your introduction and for welcoming everyone. So, first of all, I would like to thank all of you for coming and making it to this webinar. This is my first webinar, and I'm really excited. And I thank everyone for giving up your Saturday morning. I know how it feels exactly, but I appreciate your joining this session, and I hope I can make it useful and I can make it interesting for everyone here. So my name is Jagrati Chauhan. I'm currently teaching at ULE, York University English Language Institute. I'm an instructor for EAP, and I'm also the coordinator for two special programs, which is Predestination York and Destination York. So what I'm going to share with you today is basically an entire workshop which I developed for a seminar component for our Destination York program. Now, just to give you a little idea about that, let me just take you to my first slide, and let me just tell you what we do. So our teaching context is the Destination York program is an 8-week intensive program, and it is from in ULE we teach programs from beginners to advanced, and every class has a number of 16 students. It's an integrated skill-based pedagogy and a very linguistic mixed background. And we have over 2,000 students from 50 different countries usually joining our programs. However, the Destination York program, it is slightly different because it is a very monolingual program. The students are all from China, and they all come here when they are, say, I would say an IELTS 5.5, if that helps. And for a ULE academic program, they are about a level 5B, and which means when they pass this program, they are a level 6, and that means they are ready to join university for their undergraduate programs. So why I decided to teach this particular aspect is I had been teaching a seminar on speaking skills for quite some time, and I realized that Chinese students overall do pretty good with grammar. They're not that, it's not a big challenge for them. They learn very quickly. They are able to, master the other skills of speaking. But one thing they really lacked was pragmatics. And I realized this was actually a big hindrance for most of the students. And, I thought if I could do something to help them, it would be great. So while teaching my discussion skills seminar, I asked them, you have great ideas, your grammar is pretty good, you have the confidence, but what happens to you? Why aren't you able to do a good discussion? What is stopping you? And my students usually came up with the same answer, and they said, we don't know where to start from. And I said, well, this is very familiar to our writing skill. If we all know that when we teach essays, writing essays, we always know that students struggle with the beginning, with the introduction. And once they get the introduction part done, they usually have confidence, and they kind of, the essay flows well, and things begin to, look more clear, and they feel more confident at the same time. And so I thought, how can I make this interesting for them? How can I give them the confidence? How can I help them start? So what I did was, I sort of looked at what happened, what was missing with my Chinese students, and I saw that they overused modals and they had a very autocratic tone. So, and overuse of words like but, okay, but may, maybe, but fine, but all right, but sorry. So the but was always there, and I thought I need to get rid of this, and I need to help them, support them with more vocabulary that they could use that would be linguistically correct, and at the same time that would give them the confidence, because if they start off well and if they start off impressively, they automatically gain confidence, and everything else that follows would be wonderful. So I thought in the discussion skills seminar, my seminar, I thought, how can I maximize pragmatic competence during classroom discussions? And this was the basic need. And I thought, okay, I'm going to hit on that. So I'll just take you to my next slide. And I said, I just didn't want to start off something without any research. And I said, okay, let me see what research says. And according to Crystal, pragmatics is the study of language from the point of view of users, especially of the choices they make, the constraints they encounter in using language in social interaction, and the effects their use of language has on other participants in the act of communication. Casper again said, pragmatic competence can be specifically defined as the knowledge of communicative action and how to carry it out, and the ability to use language appropriately according to the context. Now, context was the most important thing. And as I said that my students usually had, the tendency to overuse modals. So I have always had, situations when my students would come in and say, Jagrati, you must open turnitin.com for me. Or Jagrati, you must teach APA tomorrow. And, the overuse of must and should. And I thought, this should change, and they should learn more of could or would you mind or would. So basically that was how it all happened. So I had the backing of the research. Now, just to give a little idea about what pragmatics is, in very simple language, it is the use of appropriate language in a given communicative situation. So basically, context and situation is really, really important. And there are three things that needs to be considered here: using language, changing language, and following rules. Obviously, there are two kinds of pragmatics. One is social pragmatics, which is more culture focused, and there is pragmalinguistics, which is more language focused. So I know that they need a lot of work on social pragmatics as well. Like, for example, how would you go and talk to your professor? How would you approach your professor if you have a deadline to meet and, you haven't even made it close to it and you want some extension, things like that. But for this particular seminar, which was a seminar for 6 weeks, and they would be with me for 4 hours a week, I thought I would rather focus on one aspect and gradually see how they can use that particular to improve on the other aspect. So basically, I focused more on the language focus part, which is the pragmalinguistics. I'm sorry. Pragmatics needs to be taught, and that's what research again said. It's important because it plays a crucial role in students' integration into the social, educational, and professional lives in their new country. So most of these students that come to our program, they're all international students, and they're really struggling to get this language fluency and competency, and eventually they're all going to join university. So somewhere down the line, their need is not just to pass an exam, but also to integrate into their, new role as a student in a new country. And students especially need it for success in academic discourse and for assimilating in their academic environment. Now, discussions, as we know, forms a very important part of their university life. So that was one of the most important things that I wanted to address. And most of the research clearly indicates that regardless of their grammatical competency, language learners have difficulty in the area of pragmatics. So if in simple words you say grammatical accuracy is not equal to pragmatic competence. So what can be done? So teaching pragmatics, like Casper feels that both ESL and EFL learners appear to benefit from explicit instruction in pragmatics. And again, video is one of the most richest sources teachers have for helping their students experience and observe pragmatics at work. Why did I choose video here? I mean, I just want to let you know a little bit more here. So basically, our Destination York program is an 8-week program, and students, they go through extensive reading in class. Like they read, sometimes they have homework and they have to read 29 pages from a textbook chapter and make a study outline. It's a lot of reading that is involved. And in my discussion, I didn't want it to be basically without any research. So I wanted them to read something, but at the same time have some backing, have some kind of support from some kind of research, some kind of reading. But then I did not want to include reading. That was another thing, because they would be very bored and tired, and I wanted to make this seminar interesting. So I said, okay, I can use videos and I can select some nice documentaries. There is so much resources available online, and why not make use of that? And another thing that I did was I used a jigsaw strategy. I'll be talking more about this. So basically, I'll just give you a little sneak peek at the kind of videos I'm using. Now I will make sure that once you're done with this particular session today, you will get all the handouts, all the rubrics, and all the links to all the videos. It will be available to you, so you don't have to actually worry about kind of taking pictures for these links or anything. It'll be made available to you. So if you see some of the videos, I'll just read out a little bit here. It says the first one is on KarmaTube. It's one of my favorite channels, actually. It has some excellent short videos there. Hummingbird Story, which is only 2 minutes. I'm sure most of you know about that. A Lifetime of Favors, 3 minutes. Bird Die of Plastic. Rwanda Ban Plastic Bags. So what I've done is I've kind of paired the videos in a way, like the first 2 videos deal with something that teaches you some kind of important life skill. But the second 2 videos are about the harmful effects of plastic on our environment and, life around on Earth. The next 2 are on child marriage, okay? After that, you see the other 2 are on drinking water. And there is one that says the story of the bottled water. It's on YouTube. I really like, I don't know how the authenticity of what is there. People have questioned whether the facts presented there could be not true, but I think for students it doesn't matter, because the discussions are very, very fun, and they are very interesting once students watch this. And if you go to the story of bottled water, you will find the story of cosmetics, the story of many other things. There are a lot of things, and these are all 8 to 9 minutes videos, and they are just excellent. Let me take you to the next 2. It's on language learning, all right? And my next slide here, it's China's Tortured Beauty and the cosmetic story of cosmetics. And then you have laboratory testing, animal testing, and then 7 Habits of Mindful Eating. And Dr. Oz. I really like Dr. Oz. He has some excellent, very short videos, and they're great for very short discussions. There's the next 2 are on food safety and what's wrong with what we eat. Very interesting. Barefoot College and Why MOOC Matters. So if you see that most of these are not very academic, but at the same time they are. And if you see the length also varies. There are some that start at 2 minutes. There are ones that 4 to 5 minutes, and then there are others that go from 10 to 15 minutes. So I begin with the very short videos and slowly kind of go on, extending the time duration of the videos. And also one thing is I'm very flexible in my class. I cannot go with very strict plans, and my teaching style is I cannot go with calendars. I usually walk into my class, I see what my students' mood is, mentally what are they capable of doing today, and accordingly I adjust my plan to make the best out of my time. So I wouldn't say that I go in a sequence as I've put it here, but I make it flexible. I see what they want to talk about. Sometimes I just go in and talk about, cosmetics or something like that. And if I see the students are really excited about this particular topic, I say, hey, let's do a discussion on that. And, I kind of take it that way. So I used jigsaw for my pragmatics. So as you see, I've done 3 things. I've taught pragmatics, discussion skills. I have used videos as my support resource, and I have used jigsaw. Now, why jigsaw? Very important. Because it is a cooperative learning technique, number 1. Teamwork increases student participation, which is a big challenge with Chinese students because some of the students are very quiet and they do not like to, they're not very loud, unlike my Brazilian students who are just wonderful. You give them anything and they really talk, they love talking, they love interacting. But on the other hand, Chinese students are basically very quiet and, this jigsaw I thought would help them to open up and to be, more communicative in class. And it is also less threatening for some students, which I believe some students are really quiet, they're introverts. And I think this strategy allows students who are quiet and, kind of feel intimidated. It gives them some scope to actually, be a part of the classroom discussion and enjoy it at the same time. It also reduces competitiveness in the initial stage. It reduces the teacher's dominance in the classroom, which I really wanted to focus more on, because in the core class, where they do the reading, writing, listening, and speaking component, we really dominate to some extent because we tell them what they're supposed to do, teaching them very strict strategies for different skills and making sure they get the strategies and they take tests and everything. So for the seminar, I wanted to reduce teachers' dominance. I wanted them to take control of the seminar in some way and be responsible and take lead in it. It also increases individual and group performance at the same time, and integrated listening, speaking, retelling, and paraphrasing. Now, retelling and paraphrasing, the reason why I mentioned here is one of our DY outcomes for speaking mentions paraphrasing and retelling as one of the major outcomes. And I thought if I could incorporate this within my seminar, then students get some extra practice with that. At the same time, jigsaws are interesting, relevant, and fun. So what basically I did was, in my jigsaw, just before I head to the next my worksheets, what I did was, in the beginning, they come to my class in my seminar, and in the first class, I divide them into two groups. I send one group out of the class, and I show the other group a 2-minute video. So it's only a 2-minute video. Say, for example, the hummingbird video. They take notes. And then they go out of the class. I give them time to discuss. I tell them, you divide yourselves and take different roles. Someone who will introduce the topic, someone who will say what they saw in the video. So basically it's paraphrasing and retelling. And someone will give extra opinions and things what they think about their video. So they divide the roles. Everybody should speak for at least a few seconds, if I say a few sentences. And then you come back. And then I show another video to another group and have them go out. So after, say, for example, 10 minutes, they're all in the class. I make them sit right opposite each other, both the groups, and they kind of tell each other what they saw in that video. So basically, the other group hasn't seen the other video. So it's listening to them and trying to understand what this video would be. And then I asked them to judge if they were happy with the kind of paraphrasing done from the other group, the way the other group discussed and, shared what they saw in that video. And then I show them the original 2 videos. And then they kind of, evaluate themselves as to how good they covered most of the points. And after showing them the videos, I open up a larger discussion. So basically, if it is about, learning how to be helpful, or taking control of your responsibilities towards your life and the world at large and nature, and the environment. So I put down a few discussion questions on the board and the whole class as a group or, 2 small groups discuss this for the rest of the class. So that is usually my first class and I keep moving forward with that strategy of the jigsaw strategy. But as we go on to longer videos, I don't want to use class time watching videos. So I give them as homework and they are more than happy to do, this homework because it's not writing an essay or reading 29 pages, of an article. How long is the video? Well, the video I have a question here. So how long is the video to start with? The videos to start with are 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but as we progress, I give them videos that are up to 10 minutes long. Usually all these students live in a university residence area, so sometimes they have an option of watching the video, together as a group in the living common room area or somewhere. They can even watch it on their own laptops. And I think the longest video is 20 minutes. I don't think I choose anything beyond that. Yes, I hope I've answered the question. So that is my whole idea of the jigsaw. So they watch the video and they come to class, and I did not want to go on like, they watch the video and they discuss. I said, evaluation is a very important aspect, and Chinese students really like if they are constantly evaluated, if you, kind of give them. Yes, thank you, Juliana. And yes, so what happens is Chinese students, they really like if at the end of the day you say, hey, this is what your score is. They find that, they find it is this accomplishment for them, this achievement of marks is really very rewarding and they are happy. So I said, okay, I need to find a way how I can actually, kind of evaluate them at the same time. But to start off, as I said in the beginning of my presentation, I needed to give them some kind of support to begin with. So basically I created worksheets. Now my worksheets, I divided them into a few categories here. I know that some of you might feel that this is not enough. I truly understand that what I've done in my worksheets, it's not enough. But to begin with, it really helped my students. I've concentrated on very few things here, but key aspects that were really important. So basically I divided my worksheets into expressing opinions, agreement, disagreement, interruptions, tone and body language. And for all these things, I gave them 100 phrases. So each component here had 25 phrases to begin with. So for example, for expressing opinions, they had a list of 25 phrases. For disagreeing, they had a list of 25 phrases. And in the first 4 weeks, we concentrated individually on these aspects of the phrases. So while they were discussing, they would have these 25 phrases right in front of them. So it's not about memorizing these phrases. It's about taking a very quick look. If the paper was right in front of them, they would take a quick look and use it to begin to express opinions. They would take a quick look and begin to express agreement or disagreement for that matter. Tone and body language was something I really concentrated a lot on. I did one whole class on tone and body language. For that, I used a lot of videos that are available on YouTube. There is one which is one of my favorite. It's called Pragmatics of Hello. It's on YouTube, and I'll send you. I can tell you it's very easy if you just go on YouTube and if you just type Pragmatics of Hello. I think it's a 3-minute video. Where hello has been used in like 15 different ways and it means 15 different things. So this was a nice introduction to pragmatics and how pragmatics can change, the language can change with context in different situations. I also created a few board games for my students. When I do a presentation, live presentation, I usually share a lot of other games, but on a webinar, it's not possible. But I'll tell you what I do as and when I move forward. And I created some fun games. I'll tell you more about that. So I also created rubrics. My rubrics are very simple to use for teachers. I have been teaching this seminar for over a year now with great success. My evaluations have been excellent and that has encouraged me constantly. I've made, constant changes to it and finally reached to this final version of what I'm going to share with you today. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Juliana, for that. So it's called Assessment Rubric for Expressing Opinions. And there is one called Assessment Rubric for Expressing Agreement, for Expressing Disagreement, Interruption, Body Language. And then there are 2 more rubrics to go with, right? So this is all I did, and this is what I'm going to share with you. So this is my first rubric. It's called Discussion Pragmatics Assessment Rubric as Expressing Opinions. Now it's very easy for the teacher to use this rubric, and I'll tell you what I did. Basically, I gave them, I'll just quickly run through the slides and show you because that's very important. Just give me 1 second. I want to actually show you the phrases that I used before I can go through the rubric so that you get an idea. Now this is 25 phrases for expressing opinions. So this is what the students have in front of them while they are discussing. And if I'm evaluating them on expressing opinions, this is what they have right in front of them. So I feel to begin with, I guess, in my view, personally, I think my impression is that I hold the view that, so these are different ways they could begin, and they necessarily don't have to always start with I think, I think, I think, because that is what usually happened in my class. They did not have the language to express opinions. Every time I had students either use I think or in my opinion. So these were the 25 phrases which I thought would help them. Accordingly, there were 25 phrases for expressing agreement. So for example, I agree, definitely, I'd go along with that view to a point. I have to side with you on this one. I see exactly what you mean. So these are some phrases that students use. And believe me or not, once they use this, they feel really confident for two reasons. Number one, it's more than I agree. Number two, when they have it in front of them, they don't have to worry about making it correct in terms of grammatical accuracy. They know it's correct. They know that a teacher has given them. So grammatically, it's correct. All they have to do is be comfortable using it. So when I give them, they take a look at it. They go home. They kind of try to make sentences in class, just basic sentences just to get used to these phrases. And in the next class, when they are evaluated, all they have to do is take a sneak peek at these phrases and choose the one they would like to use or like to experiment with. I know in my class I always had students, some of their favorite ones were you took the words right out of my mouth. They really liked using that, and I second that. They found that these were really good, and they found that their language looked really nice and just like native speakers, and they would use this very often. There is 25 phrases for expressing disagreement. So I wouldn't quite put it that way myself. You've got to be kidding. This is my students' favorite one, believe me, and they do it really well. They kind of laugh a little bit and use this one, and it really has a very good impact. I'm afraid I disagree, or no, I'm not sure about that because. So these are some phrases that I use for expressing disagreement. Then there are 25 phrases for interruption. So sorry, but can you let me finish? This was really important because when it is a discussion, you have a lot of people interrupting because after a certain point, people are very passionate and students want to express their opinions, and taking turns is something that, it's not taught in many classes, and students think that, as long as they don't bang on the desks and they don't interrupt and they don't raise a voice, they're not doing a good work in discussion. But I said, well, you can do it very politely, and that's what we're learning, the art of, doing discussions in a very polite and a very formal and in a very decent manner. So I give them these phrases, and believe me, with the right tone and with the right body language, it really creates a good impact on the group and on those who love interrupting. So for example, one of my students would say, before you move on, I'd like to say something, or just a minute, I'd like to add something. So these were I'll take you back to my rubrics now. I hope everyone is with me, and I hope I'm not going too fast. Please let me know. If you have any questions or if I'm not clear anywhere, I would be more than happy to answer your questions at this point. I hope I'm kind of covering everything and I'm not leaving any room for any kind of confusion there. So please feel free to type in any questions if you have, and if I'm not clear anywhere. So I'm back to the first rubric, which is called expressing opinions. So basically, students are introduced to the 25 phrases. They have watched a video already in groups, and when I kind of evaluate them, I put them into 4 groups. I do not like very big groups in the beginning because it does not give chance to those speakers who are, quiet students who do not like speaking and who are shy. So I really like to put the shy ones together and those who are talkative together. That's my strategy, because then, the discussions really take on. It's very heated most of the time, and it's easy for me to grade them at the same time. And that ways I'm not biased towards those who love speaking and those who are, kind of very relaxed or kind of shy and, don't have a very, how would I say, a very outgoing way of expressing themselves. So I usually have a student, my size is usually 16, most of the time, 99% of the time. So I put 4 in each group, and they have the paper right in front of them. I do not take the paper away from them because I do not want them to memorize. And I think this really helps them because believe me or not, by week 6 or week 5, they usually don't look at the paper. Although the paper is with them, they are so comfortable using all the phrases. They don't really, and they master it so well. Their memory is really good and they don't really need to look at the paper. So just giving them that paper and, telling them that yes, you're free to look at it and use it, it really helps them. So all I have to do is if someone is able to express clearly, then that person just needs to, say, for example, put a check mark here, say, able to express opinions clearly. So all they need to do is, put a little check mark here. If it is an always, put a little check mark here. If it is an often, then here. So for example, uses appropriate phrases. Say for example, the student hasn't used the phrases very often and mostly used I think. So I would put a check mark here. All right. And then uses correct grammar. Now this is where it's not an always, it is usually at that level. They are pretty good with grammar. They master most of the grammatical skills and, they're pretty good. So I would say it's mostly often or seldom in some cases, but it can never be a rarely unless I know the student is really low and, needs to repeat the level in the future, right? Word choice is appropriate. Okay, most of the time they're good with vocabulary. They have a strong vocabulary in this particular program. Tone. Now this is where, again, I teach them a lot on tone. I teach them a lot on, how one thing can be used in different ways. So for example, if I say, really, or if I say, you did. So, you did can have two different meanings and we work a little bit on that in class. So most of the time they're good, but I would say often. So if you see the total score is 20 and the categories are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each category here is a 4 mark. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 4, 3, 2, and 1. And all I have to do is add up the score in the end and just give a score here. So if a student gets always or all yes, then all they have to do is 5 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 20 out of 20. So they get a score of 20. So this is 5, this is 4, this is 3, this is 2. I do not believe in giving 1 to any student. Sorry about that, but I thought that was too less. So they get a decent score. Now in this case, the student would get 5 plus 3. My mathematics is really bad. If someone can help me, 5 plus 3, 7, plus 4, 11. 11 plus 5 is 16. 16 plus 4 is, 20, is that? I don't know. Something is going wrong with my mathematics, but I'm sure the teachers will solve it, will be able to solve it. So the score goes in here and then the percentage. Now the good thing about the rubric is you don't necessarily have to give a score. If you do not want to give a score, you can simply put just the check marks, and that way the students get an idea that they've been able to use express most of the time, but they have to work on the phrases, or they have to be more familiar with the phrases, or they have to work with the tone. And although on this particular slide you do not see the comment box, but when Juliana makes the Word document for this particular rubric available to you, there is a little comment box as well where students can actually the teachers can actually write comments there. Yes, that is a very good question. I usually tell the students how they will be graded. So I give them the rubrics beforehand. I tell them every little bit about how they will be graded. They know it. I give them so that they can write their names on the rubric and hand the paper back to me. So they are particularly aware. Also, I would like to mention here that I usually use this rubrics for peer assessment at the same time. So one group is assessing the other group sometimes. I also use it for assessing each other. So if they're in the same group, they can use it for each other. Believe me or not, most of the time it goes with my gut feeling. This rubric has really helped me to come, right on target with what I would have given the student anyways otherwise. It gives me a decent score. Sometimes it is few percentages here and there, but most of the time it's bang on there. So I really like it. And it's very easy to use because as an instructor, I would rather concentrate more on looking at the students and, through my body language, kind of giving them the idea that, yes, I'm listening to you and I'm not looking at a rubric which is so extensive that I don't have time to actually look at you, but constantly, marking you on a lot of areas. So I concentrate on small areas, and that way I know where to put a check mark. I'm constantly looking at them and they feel that, the teacher is actually listening to them. Thank you, Lisa. Yes, the rubrics are pretty easy to use, and I think most of the teachers have had some very positive feedbacks from some instructors who have used these rubrics. 4-1, not from. Yes, could be 4-1. Yes, thank you. And I don't know your name, but thank you. I think it goes from 4-1. It's a Saturday morning. I've been down with the flu. I've been on medication since yesterday, so I apologize. Not an excuse, but I think that would work for now. But thank you very much for helping me out to solve this thing, because I was thinking after this presentation, I should go and look clearly at what went wrong. But thank you for that suggestion. Thank you, Juliana. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So this is how the rubric is used. And when Juliana makes it available to you on a Word document, please feel free. I do not mind. If you want to make any changes to the rubric, modify it, adapt it, feel free to do it. I'll be more than happy. I'm really flexible with that, because I understand every class is different and the students' needs are different, the teachers' needs are different. And I think, if you can adapt something that I am, providing you with, I would be more than happy if it is of any use to you and your class. So. How to establish the criteria. Example, use appropriate phrases. Yes, as I told you, when I give them the phrases, there's a question there, and I would like to answer this question right away. When I give students the phrases, introduce them for the first time, I actually read it out loud to them, because they have to get the tone correct, which is really important. Most of the time, I will also have to make them understand the pragmatics, of that particular phrase, why it is used, in what context it is used, how can it be used, how would you work it out in terms of the tone, in terms of body language, what do you do with your hands when you're saying this particular thing, what do you do with your face, your eyebrows, do you smile, do you look directly into the person's eyes? I also work on hand stapling sometimes, and students love it, kind of staple your hands, downward stapling, upward stapling, and I tell them, hold your head straight, do not tilt it too often, and that these little things, we work on that. But at the same time, I also ask them to make little sentences with that phrase to begin with. For example, I agree with what you say, but I have another point to make here. So they kind of make verbal sentences, they practice it out in group, and this is how we kind of work with that. No, thank you for the question. Yes, I am able to actually assess all the 16 students, because each discussion does not go for more than, say, 6 to 7 minutes to begin with. And in the beginning, because I'm showing them the video in class and my class is 2 hours, I really have to make the discussion part a little shorter. And because they are beginners anyway, so if 4 people are discussing, 4 times 2 is 8. So I keep the overall discussion 8 minutes. 8 times 4 is 30, 8 4s are 32. So basically I give them approximately 40 minutes or so for the entire discussion. I do it in 2 different ways. Sometimes I have the whole class watch the other. Sometimes they do their discussions. I just move around the class assessing them. And I think it's not very difficult. It has never been a challenge for me. But when I go for longer discussions, I will show you the rubrics that I use for longer discussions. And that way I use the entire class for assessing, and the groups are bigger. So sometimes I use 8 people in one group. Sometimes I keep them 4, but I prefer keeping 8 because by that time I expect them to, overcome their shyness, overcome that hesitation. They are now well equipped with the language. The comfort zone is even, it's better than what it was in day one. And that way, I expect them to participate in larger groups with all kinds of students because in real life, they wouldn't get this kind of, people would not accommodate them with, because you're shy, I will put you with a group that is a very shy group now. So they really have to, kind of come out of that hesitation and be more comfortable and be more confident. And I think they do pretty well. So I'll just quickly move here to the other rubrics. The other rubrics, agreeing, is the same thing if you see, only the first category changes a little bit here. Otherwise, the rubric is the same. So this is the week second. Anyone who wants to? Okay. And this is the third rubric, which is on disagreement. This is the fourth one, which is on interruption. This is on body language. Now, body language is slightly different. So I teach these things, uses appropriate body language. Now, I do have students sometimes who sit in the chair and keep rocking the chair back and forth, And just so that you know, I also video record most of the recordings, discussions that my students do in class. I have permission to do that, and they sign a form from the university where they actually give me permission to video record that. If we have time, I would like to show it to you, but I'm not sure if we'll have enough time for that. Usually in my seminars at TESOL Canada, TESOL Toronto, and other places, I've showed these videos, and I think teachers and instructors really appreciated that because they really saw my students using the language so confidently and comfortably, and what an impact this little phrases create on their confidence level in their discussion pragmatic skills. Uses appropriate facial expressions. So basically, I tell them a smile is a good way to, show your confidence, but laughing unnecessarily doesn't help. Twitching the eyebrows, knitting the eyebrows to show the other person that you don't quite agree with that person, or, nodding your head a little bit, kind of these little things that go on. And hand gestures, like I told you, stapling. I tell them not to kind of fold their hands. I tell them if they want to put their hands on their face, they would rather have their face more visible rather than do something like, cupping your cheek and, kind of making it not very clear to the other person. Eye contact is one thing we really work on a lot, and it is very difficult, believe me or not. It is really very difficult for students to master this. I also tell them that you're not staring at a person when you're answering a person. You start with the person, you go around the entire group, and you finish at that person. That way, your discussion is not one-on-one in a group, and you're actually kind of, taking the whole group together with what you're saying and getting the whole group's, how would I say? Yes, with you. I'm falling sort of short of vocabulary this morning. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's very important for them to understand that they really have to maintain eye contact with everyone and not just the one person they are, kind of agreeing with or disagreeing with. So this is what we work a little bit on. This is my rubric this is a rubric that I use before the final rubric. If you see, it is slightly different from the other rubrics because this is like a midterm rubric for my students. And here what they do is, I don't have the categories, but I have expressing opinions, agree, disagree, interrupt, and body language. Again, it's divided into 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 times 5 is 20. So the mathematics, I'm sure you or everyone is going to work out. And all I have to do is put check marks and in the end give a little percentage there and a few comments. If they have anything, they can write down here. Yes, giving them feedback. Thank you for asking me that question. Feedbacks are given in 2 ways here. I give them this particular rubric. Once I'm done assessing, I give it back to them. They look at it. They ask me questions at the end of the class. I give them answers. Most of the time, I told you, I write a few things in the comments that really helps them. It's also verbal. It's also written so that they have a copy of it. yes, I agree with you, Juliana. It can be a real challenge for some students. Most of it is very culture specific, and at the same time, it is also individual personality. So I do not really try to, kind of force them to be someone who they are not, but just keeping them within their comfort zone. I try to tell them how far you can go, and then I draw a line. Okay, if you can go this far, this should be acceptable. At least you've moved ahead a few steps, and that will give you the confidence. So what happens is my strategy is not to tell them you have to do this, but if you can do this, that'll be great. And in the beginning, they try, they get close to it, and I say, you know what, if this is your comfort zone, if this is how far you can go, excellent, stick to it. Eventually, by week 7, they feel so confident being there that they try and, kind of learn more and try to, stretch themselves a little more and do better at it. I had a very good example of this term when I had a student who particularly until week 4 would not look at anyone and speak. But amazingly, after watching his own video, he said, you know what, I could make an attempt to work on my eye contact, and his friends helped him and everybody in the class helped him. I have a wonderful unity in my class. From the very beginning, I focus on not isolating the, very fluent students from the non-fluent or telling them that, this student is good or bad. I try to make sure that they are all one group, and I try to make sure I tell them that we will all succeed as a group. We want to all grow as a group, as a class. We want to learn from each other, and we want to move ahead together. So that unity is really important. I do some excellent icebreakers in the beginning, know each other kind of things in the beginning. We play a lot of games, and they have a chance of including me in all these games. So by week 3 we are a great group and we share a lot of things in class, and I think the comfort zone is really good, and that helps them to overcome these challenges to a great extent. The assessment, thank you for that question again. So I would leave this to individual teachers how they would want to do. I have done it with different groups. I have done it in different ways because not all groups go with the same pace. So most of the time the assessment is done. In this particular seminar, my students see me every Tuesday and every Thursday for 2 hours each. So on Tuesday, I introduce the topic. I introduce the phrases. I give them the videos. On Thursdays, they are assessed, basically. If that helps with the question. Sometimes if the group is really fast, they're quick to learn, they really want to move ahead, I do an assessment on the same day. I introduce to them, I assess them at the end of the class. Sometimes it really works. Yes, it depends on the group. And I think instructors have the liberty to suit according to their groups, and also it depends on what kind of program you're teaching. Are your students for a longer period of time with you, or are they for a shorter period of time with you? It all depends on the number of hours you're with the students, and I think that is more important. So it's a very flexible, approach here, and I have tried to make it so very flexible for teachers to adapt, to change, to suit their group, to suit what they're teaching, and also to make changes to these rubrics if they want, just in case they want to include something that they feel is important for their program, or their outcomes that they have in their programs. That should work fine. Now, this is my final rubric. Thank you. Yes, someone just mentioned that it is hard for the body language, to control your body language, but it can be learned, yes. And I think the best way for me to learn is when you watch each other, when you are with a group and you know that nobody is judging you in that particular group, nobody is looking at you with, how do you do that? I mean, you're not supposed to do that, when you're not being judged. When you're not being penalized, or when you're not being, isolated, or you don't feel intimidated, that's when you really pick up body language. When your intention is we are all in the same boat, we are all learning from each other. So I think that's when, it really helps them to learn from each other and the comfort level is really high. So back to my final rubric. I know we are running out of time and I'll really have to go fast on that. This rubric will be made available to you. This is my final rubric, and if you see, the categories are very simple. Now, right here, if you can see the name, I write the names of all my 16 students. I know currently you cannot see all the 16, but if you kind of do it full screen, you can see that it has 16 columns here. That way all the 16 students' names are written here. And as I told you, my final assessment is a one big class or two big groups. And in that case, I write the names of the groups and I just go from one group to another. I make sure that when one big group is doing a discussion, the other group is silently watching them. And all I have to do is I put a 3, 5, 3, or 1. That's all I have to do. A 5 is an excellent, which is a smiley face. A fair is a normal face, and a needs improvement is a kind of not too happy. And that's all I have to do. So I have to just put a 5 here, a 3 here, a 5 here, a 1 here. And I don't know if you can read all the categories. I'll read very quickly just so that you have an idea. Takes initiative to participate in the discussion, expresses opinions clearly and confidently, expresses agreement and disagreement, able to interrupt politely, flexibly uses a wide range of vocabulary. Yes, I can zoom it. I think I should be doing that. Thank you. Oh, just a minute. At the very bottom. Is it fit presentation to page? Oh, yes, I got it. Thank you. 100 to 400. Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem. Then just click and drag it to that area you need to show. Just click on the okay, now you need to undo.
Okay.
Clear the page. Just cross button.
Undo
on
shapes.
the sidebar. Undo again, or clear page. There should be like a cross.
Yes. Clear page. Okay.
And now you need to click on the drag. There should be a hand at the very top of that sidebar.
Okay. Yes. Click on the pencil.
No, not on the pencil, but on the hand icon, or I think it's a hand icon that you have at the very top of this.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Juliana. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. And maybe just try to zoom out a bit again. Then just go to the bottom and zoom out. So you're zooming in. And
is it okay for everyone?
Yeah, perfect.
Mm-hmm. So take initiative and, express opinions confidently and clearly, agreements and disagreements. So I'm also kind of able to interrupt politely. Flexibly uses a wide range of vocabulary. Yes, they get just to point out here, I don't exclusively teach grammar in this particular seminar, but they get a lot of grammar input in their core class. So because the seminar is a part of their core, we kind of integrate things. And as I told you in the beginning, we also work on paraphrasing and retelling skills because these are part of our course outcomes. So I expect them to improve in their grammar gradually because they are getting that in their core class. They are learning in their speaking classes as to how they can improve their grammatical range and accuracy. And that is why it just is more fair to them so that, it's not that I'm not teaching them grammar and trying to assess them. But yes, in the core class, they do learn a lot of grammar and they do work on this. All right. Able to maintain eye contact, thinks critically, and makes relevant contribution to the discussion. Thinks critically is again something that is taught in our core classes during their reading skills and their speaking skill classes. So it is something that we expect them. Also, when I show them different videos, we do a little bit of thinking critically, and I know it's very culture specific, but at the same time, students get some kind of training in this, and so it's kind of okay. How many assessments do they have? Well, I do assessments for expressing opinions, agreement, disagreement, interruption, body language, and then these are individual skills that they are taught. and then they have a midterm, and then they have a final. So I have 7 rubrics altogether. However, I know it could be a lot for most of the instructors. Feel free to discard what you don't want and use what you want. So overall, 7 rubrics, and all the 7 rubrics will be made available to you if you want to use them. And takes turns and listen to others and respects others' opinions. So this was also very important to address, and we have always talked about being polite with your discussions, making sure that others get a chance to speak sometimes, and listening to others with respect and things like that. Yes, we are running out of time. Let me quickly go through this. So this was my final rubric, and I think you've all taken a look at this. So I just quickly want to take you to my final slide, which is a board game here. It will be made available to you in PDF and in Word form. Juliana has a copy, so she will be giving it to you. So just to ease out a little bit of tension during examinations and others, to begin the class as a warm-up, we play this board game. It's very interesting. I also give them card games in the end, and they kind of, a little stack of cards, and I put them in pairs. They pick up a card. There is a topic already for them. They speak on it for just 1 minute or 2 minutes, and they put the card down, and then they have to pick the other card up, and then they work on that. To make them more familiar with the phrases here, if you see, I had just shown the phrases. I usually, put the phrases in a Word document, cut them into pieces, and then I put 4 different categories: opinions, agreement, disagreement, and interruption. And I give them these little strips of phrases, and it is a competition in the class where students have to run and put the phrase under the right category. So say, for example, if it is a phrase which says, if it's a phrase which says expressing opinions, then, and if they have a little slip of paper that says, excuse me for interrupting, then they have to go and put that phrase under interruption and not under opinion. That way they get more used to, the phrases. So I think I'm mostly done, and I'll just take you to my last page, and I will have people ask me questions, instructors ask me questions. So my last 2 pages are references actually. And my PowerPoint presentation is done here. And now I know there is a lot I wanted to share with you, but I think at this point of the time, I would like to invite questions. All of the activities are based on discussions, but as I told you, we play games, we play board games. So sometimes, if they really want to do a little mini presentation within a group, I allow them. Sometimes if they want to share personal experiences as a warm-up in a class, I allow them. I play little games with them just to make them familiar with the phrases. Sometimes I type the phrases incorrectly on a Word document, cut them into little strips, and give it to my students and tell them, what is wrong with the grammar here? Is this phrase correct? How can you change this phrase in order to make it correct or appropriate? Sometimes I put in a rude, word there, or a word that is not supposed to be there. And then, they have to fix it in their own way. So these are little things that I do. How long do I spend on each assessment? As I told you, the discussions in the beginning are like, say, for example, 8 minutes long. So 8 times 4, if I'm assessing 4 groups, I spend 32 minutes, which is approximately 40 minutes of my 2 hours class. But as we move on to longer discussions, I sometimes assess them for more than an hour because they have watched the video at home on their own. They come, and all I am doing is assessing them and video recording them at the same time. In terms of body language, what I do is I video record them. I use one class to show the videos to them. They love it. They enjoy watching themselves. And I tell them the day I'm going to video record them, they dress up really well. Most of them wear a suit, and they love dressing up and, looking very formal. And I video record them, and they really point out their own mistakes. Hey, look at me, I'm rocking my chair, I shouldn't be doing that. Or, they tell each other, hey, you should move your hand away from your face. So we work on, I know some students might not like it, but as I told you, I really look at the comfort level of my students. From the very beginning, I kind of create a team work in my class, and we are all like a big team. And after a certain point, it doesn't kind of bother them, like that if someone is pointing out something. And it's a very fun-loving class. We enjoy a lot in this class. Really, I'm telling you, it's not just because I'm doing this seminar, but we have lots of fun in this seminar. All the activities, okay. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for your comment. Yes, I do a lot of games. I wish I could have shown you more games, but it's really hard to show it here. But I hope I have explained the games to all of you. So basically, if you take those phrases, they are available in Word document, and you can create a lot of games for your class. Say, for example, you can cut them into strips, each and individual phrases. You can put them into the right category. You can work around the grammar portion of that. A lot of things that you can do. Thank you very much. Thank you.